Most of the moments that change a life aren't the ones we celebrate. They're not dramatic. They don't come with applause. They don't feel like clarity or courage. They're the awkward ones afterwards. The email you don't send, the offer you quietly decline, the conversation that ends sooner than expected. Not a rebellion, not a leap. Just the moment you stop saying yes and stop waiting for something else to make it better. That moment, that's the beginning of choice. Most people think they've chosen when they've only named a desire. They can tell you what they want. They might even believe in it. They may visualize it, talk about it, imagine how good it would feel if it arrived. But the responsibility stays somewhere else. The choice remains conditional, deferred, quietly outsourced to timing, permission, or circumstance. And this is one of the most common stall points I see, because choosing is not preference. It's not optimism. It's not putting something out there and waiting to see what happens. Choosing is the moment responsibility returns to the person making the desire. It's when the desire stops being hypothetical and no longer depends on the world rearranging itself first. Here's the distinction that matters. Desire names what resonates. Choice reorganizes your participation. You can want something deeply and still avoid choosing it. That happens anytime responsibility is deferred, to timing, to approval, to validation, to when I feel more ready. Wanting can stay abstract. Choosing usually shows up as something you stop doing, an option you no longer keep open, a fallback you quietly remove, a way of participating that no longer fits. Choice sounds like this. I am no longer participating in what contradicts this. And that's why choice often feels heavier than desire at first. Desire floats. Choice makes contact with reality. Years ago, a former student of mine had built a life abroad after finishing her PhD. She'd done everything right. Fieldwork overseas, a marriage, a series of short-term academic contracts that looked respectable and never quite settled into stability. Then one semester, she was offered a role normally reserved for graduate students, despite already holding a PhD. It was demeaning in the quiet, normalized way academia often is. She said no. And that refusal mattered more than it might sound, because in academic culture, refusal is rare. People are trained to accept whatever is offered, to be grateful for proximity, to endure indefinitely. But she could say no because she had taken responsibility elsewhere. She was working as a freelance editor. She was less dependent on institutional approval. That wasn't manifestation work. That was self-respect. After that refusal, she began seriously considering work outside of academia. Not fantasizing, not wishing, not hoping institutions would treat her differently. She chose to take responsibility for her career. About 10 days later, she came across a government role in arts and culture. The description fit her background so precisely it felt uncanny. She applied. She got the job. Within a month, she was influencing national arts and culture policy. What changed her life was not the job posting. It was the refusal. That refusal was the choice. Choosing doesn't create opportunities out of nothing. It changes the conditions under which attention operates. When responsibility is reclaimed, attention reorganizes. It stops scanning for permission. It stops negotiating with what no longer fits. What changed wasn't the world. It was the signal she was sending to employers, to institutions, and to herself about what she would and wouldn't accept. This is why so many people believe they've chosen when they haven't. They still say yes to what contradicts their stated desire. They still wait for external signals before acting differently. That isn't choice. That's hope with conditions. This is where people confuse choosing with allowing. Choosing is not control. It's not prediction. It's not forcing outcomes. Choosing is responsibility. Allowing comes later. Allowing is trust, receptivity, Letting what you can't control move without interference. But trust without choice is fantasy. You cannot allow what you have not yet chosen. You can't trust a process you are still refusing to claim as yours. Choice establishes authorship. Allowing establishes relationship. Without choice, trust has nowhere to land. This is why radical responsibility isn't punishment. It's freedom. When you choose, you stop pretending your life is something happening to you. You stop waiting for life to prove that you're allowed. You stop asking reality to go first. You take your place as a participant rather than an applicant. If things feel stalled right now, it's often because a decision is being kept provisional, left reversible, just in case. So here are a few diagnostic questions, not moral ones. Where am I naming a desire but continuing to behave as if the opposite is acceptable? What am I hoping will change without my participation changing first? Where am I waiting for permission instead of deciding? Choice doesn't require urgency or bravado or certainty. It requires a willingness to let something go so that what you say matters actually has room to matter. Once responsibility is in place, the next step becomes possible. And the next step isn't effort, it's trust.